the PhD in manifestation. Luckily for you, this will be the video in which you graduate from manifestation. I say this as an individual who at this point has probably read 700 metaphysical, esoteric, occult, and reality creation texts. I also say this as somebody who's always hired by 7 to 9 figure entrepreneurs, Hollywood actors, and professional athletes. In fact, one of my professional athletes literally just made the World Cup German national football team. I also say this as somebody who thinks about this stuff literally every day. And one thing that I see all the time is that typically when it comes to manifestation, it seems so complicated. So in this video, I'm going to be taking you through not only how to manifest from A to Z, not only manifestation 101, not only a step-by-step manifestation guide, but I'm going to give you not only the school level, but all the way up to the PhD level when it comes to manifestation entirely. This will be the type of video that you'll probably will be the last video you have to watch on manifestation, or you'll keep coming back to this video because I'm not just somebody who's online talking for the sake of fucking talking. I'm hired by people to quite literally get them results. So I understand manifestation at its foundations and all the way up to the most nuanced points. So we're going to be covering everything. When I say everything, I mean everything when it comes to manifestation. And at the end, this will be you right here. You would have graduated with a PhD in manifestation. So with that being said, please make sure you do take notes and make sure you leave them in the comments. And with that being said, let's get started because I'm super excited to get into this, because typically one thing that I see in the manifestation, because I've been studying this for nearly 10 years at this point, I know all the stuff that works, the stuff that doesn't work, the lies that people tell, the things that take longer than they should. And we're always hearing about people, manifesting and people's success stories. And of course, we want to be one of those people. Not only do we want to create our desired reality, we want to maintain it, but there's a whole bunch of things that you have to know in between. And we're going to cover everything. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm very excited for this video. I've actually been, letting this video marinate in my head for the better part of 3 weeks. Now, like I said, manifestation as an industry, trust me, I've seen way too many videos, more videos than I should. And thankfully, I don't have to watch those videos anymore because I've been able to synthesize my own degree of information. But there's a couple of things that we have to get out the way first. One of them is the false definitions of manifestation versus the real. Now, at this point, when it comes to manifestation, I'm sure you're familiar with, the standard people, your Napoleon Hills, your Neville Goddard, your Abraham Hicks, your Robert A. Russells, your Ernest Holmes, your Thomas Trowards, your Florence Scovel Shins, you're probably familiar with everybody. James Allen, more people are coming to mind, as I say, William Walker Atkinson, the Three Initiates, Thurmond Dumont. Like, there's just so many people. Raymond Hollowell. You're probably familiar with a whole bunch of people when it comes to manifestation. You're probably also familiar with various different concepts. Reality transurfing. You're probably familiar with the law of assumption, the law of attraction. We're gonna have to dispel all of that stuff. The first thing that I need to get you to do is to come to a realization on one thing. When it comes to manifestation, there's what I call false definitions. The false definitions of manifestation is probably the definition of manifestation that you've accumulated at this point, which is, if I was to ask you what manifestation is, what would you say? Now, bear in mind, you might have heard me, if you're familiar with my videos, you might have heard my definition of manifestation. But when we still think about manifestation as a concept, reality creation, what are the definitions that come to mind? Changing reality. Bending reality. Molding reality. Molding reality with our minds, molding reality with our consciousness, shaping reality with our frequencies, altering reality with our self-concept. The first thing that you have to understand is that the false definition of manifestation, 9 times out of 10, is always, and when I say always, I mean always, focused on the external. Always. And this is why it's the false definition. Because think about it, really and truly, whatever it is that you seek to materialize, whether it's a relationship, a certain amount in your business, a certain amount of money, a career promotion, a career alteration, whatever it is, Our focus is always on the attainment of something in the third dimensional realm, something on the physical plane, something in the world that you live in, something in reality. That's typically where our focus is, always. And the dangerous thing about it is that so long as we are focused on the external, we fail to recognize that the external is an illusion. And if you are hyperfixated on the illusion, you will be led into delusion. Now, we see the notion of reality being an illusion across many different spiritual cultures. We see it in Kabbalah, which is Jewish metaphysics. They call it the world of 1%. They call the physical plane the world of 1% because supposedly we see 1% of the total light of the Creator on this physical plane. The scientists themselves will tell you that when it comes to the nature of reality, we only see 0.035% of what actually exists due to visible light being a tiny portion of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. In the Islamic traditions, they call it the dunya, the idea that this world isn't real. In the Hindu traditions, they call it the world of Maya. Across many different cultures, the same thing is said, which is the notion that reality, the external, is an illusion. I believe there were some quantum physicists that won, I believe it was the Nobel Peace Prize for proving that reality is non-local, which is the idea, which goes into ideas of superposition, but basically it's the idea that reality in of itself isn't what we think it to be. And the issue with manifestation is that in the manifestation industry, people typically point you on how to get the things outside of you. They tell you how to get the person. They tell you how to get the money. They tell you how to do this. They tell you to do this without realizing that so long as your consciousness, your attention is fixated on the external, you will always lose because the external is nothing more than an effect. And if you're chasing the effect, you always negate the cause. And as we know, it's the causes that lead to an effect. So people's definitions surrounding manifestation is actually not about changing reality. It's not about bending reality. It's not about molding reality. It's not about shaping reality. So long as your definition of manifestation is about changing reality, you got no fucking clue, mate. You still don't get it. The realization that you have to come to is that so long as your consciousness is fixated on the illusions of reality, you will be led into delusion and you will suffer. The first thing that you have to consistently remind yourself of, day in, day out, every single day, is that when it comes to manifestation, it's not about reality. It's not about the attainment of anything in the third dimensional realm. It's not about the acquisition of anything on the physical plane. It's not about getting money. It's not about getting the girl. It's not about getting the guy. It's not about getting the position. It's not about getting more money in your business. It's not about the clients. It's not about the deals. It's not about any of that. And so long as you think it is, then you still don't get it. And the unfortunate thing is the universe punishes ignorance. When I say punishes, of course, the universe in of itself is a collection of laws, like a system, a blind intelligence. It doesn't actually punish you per se. But what I'm trying to get you to realize is that so long as you are focused on the effect, you will forever suffer, because manifestation is not about the alteration of reality. It's not about shaping reality. In fact, you can take all of those definitions on manifestation and replace it with one thing. Replace the word reality with you. So instead of changing reality, it's about changing you. Instead of molding reality, it's about molding you. Instead of bending reality, it's about bending you. Pause. Instead of rearranging reality, it's about rearranging you. Pause again. What I'm trying to get you to come to the realization of is that naturally, if you are the cause of reality, or your state of being, your state of consciousness, your mental attitude, your mind, the combination of your mental and emotional energy, which equates to a vibration, which then compounds into a frequency, which then compounds into a reality, it is about you. And see, here's the thing. Because we want the physical things so bad, we negate the thing that leads to the physical. See, the physical is preceded by the vibrational. The vibrational is quite literally you. Which is funny, because most of us spend time reading books on how to manifest this, how to manifest this. But any particular form of literature, any video, any person that points you away from yourself is misleading you. Because there's no way that you can step into this universe where you are not. And that's a bar, write that down. Conditions, circumstances, people, and I guess circumstances or scenarios are nothing more than a reflection of you. Now, I have my own definition of manifestation. This is the same definition that I've been talking for 2 years straight of being on his channel. It's the same definition that I've been talking. And the reason why my definition has never deviated is because this is as close to manifestation in its essence as you could ever understand. My definition of manifestation is very, very simple, but don't let the simplicity of it fool you. People seem to, it's part of human nature to take simplicity and, let it go over your head. And bear in mind, for those of you that may be thinking, I know all of this. If you know all of this, then why the fuck has your life not changed to the way that you want? See, this is what I mean when I say in this video, you're going to graduate, because it's not enough to just know. You also have to know how to practically implement it. Then you have to know how to sustain it. If you're hearing things that you already know, but things aren't changing, then that means there's an aspect of your mind that is being egotistical and thinking, oh, it's gotta be something new. Oh, it's gotta be something else. No, I'm looking for that one bit of information that's gonna do it. No, it doesn't work like that. But I'll elaborate on that further. But manifestation is internally shifting to a degree to which you are no longer emotionally dependent on seeing reality change. So, there's a couple key parts of this particular definition that I'd like to highlight. And like I said, for those of you that have heard this before, good. You clearly need to hear it again. Because see, there's a part of your mind that thinks, no, I've heard this before. It's got to be something new. It's got to be something new. And that's part of the illusion of the old frequency that it presents to you to make you think that there's something that you're missing. This can be extrapolated to the entirety of life. But naturally, there's parts to this definition. Manifestation is internally shifting. That's the first thing. We point you within. I point you within, because your consciousness and your attention has to be pointed within, because so long as you're looking without and you're still thinking it's about 10K a month, 100K a month, 5 million a month, so long as you're thinking it's about that relationship, this person, getting this person, so long as you're thinking about this promotion or this job, you still don't get it. It's internally shifting to a degree to which you are no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. See, when you no longer need to see reality change, that's as close to metaphysical freedom as you're ever going to get. And the reason why I say that, I don't mean that from a point to encourage stagnation or for you to, become comfortable in your life the way that it is. But one thing that you have to come to a recognition of is this. Oftentimes, the thing that stops you from being able to materialize what you want is your emotional dependency on it. If I was to give you exactly what it is that you want right now, would you feel different? If your answer is yes, then clearly you're never going to manifest it. And see, this is what you have to come to a realization of. You must no longer be emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. Because think about it. Manifestation is an internal shift to which you are already in possession of whatever it is that you seek to materialize. So if I was to come and give you that person, if I was to come and give you the money, if I was to come and give you the promotion right now, drop it into your lap right now, would you be excited? Of course you would. But that's an indication that you're not there. Because if you was wearing a t-shirt, if you was wearing a normal plain black t-shirt, and I came and gave you another t-shirt, you'd probably be grateful, but it wouldn't be mind altering. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be life changing because it's something that you already have. Now, I'm sure there's better examples, but you get the point of what I'm trying to say here. The fact that reality can still make you feel something means that you first haven't felt it first. Because see, oftentimes we have to come to a recognition of the thing that you want is nothing more than a frequency that can be reverse engineered down to a particular state of consciousness, a combination of mental and emotional energy. Once you enter the mental and emotional equivalent or whatever it is that you want, then you will no longer need to see what it is that you want because you would have already possessed it. And this is what I mean when I say there's a false definition that we all fall into. Because here's the thing. The physical plane is seductive. The physical plane, exactly. The physical plane is a master seducer, a master temptress. And we get caught up in the physical plane so much because naturally we exist here. It's not shocking that you get caught up in the physical plane. It's not shocking that you get caught up in wanting the money. It's not shocking that you get caught up in wanting the promotion or the career or whatever it is that you desire. That's not shocking at all. We live in a physical world, and because our ego lives in a physical world and it is a physical thing, it begins to isolate the fact that you're not just a physical being. But it gets you so hyper consumed in the physical that you think the physical is all that there is. And when you think the physical is all that there is, then you make the mistake of the masses, which is an attempt to change an effect by changing an effect. That's what we do. That's what we do, without realizing that the effect is governed by a cause, and the cause pertains to your state of consciousness, your frequency. And bear in mind, I'm going to break down consciousness, self-concept, frequency, because these are all buzzwords that niggas just like to say for the fucking sake of it. So we're going to break that down too. This is what I mean when I say we're going from school level all the way up to PhD level, and you will know exactly how to materialize what it is that you want. Now, it's all good and well to just talk about, shifting, so on and so forth. We internally shift to a degree to which we're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. All fine and dandy. In fact, that's lovely. Now, what about when you do want to change reality? Because naturally, of course, even though my definition points you within, you still want those things. And don't worry, you're gonna get those things. Just relax, just wipe your mouth, zip up your pants, look, wipe your left, wipe your right, you'll be all right. It's still important for us to actually break down the nature of this world that you seek to mold. Now, of course, we don't seek to mold the world as much as we seek to mold ourselves, because through an alteration of self, we naturally alter the universe surrounding us. My point that I'm really just trying to drive home here is that your hyperfixation shouldn't be in rearranging reality so much as rearranging yourself. It's the equivalent of understanding that the world that you live in is nothing more than a mirror house. It's almost like walking in a mirror house, seeing a reflection, not liking what you see, and then attempting to smash the mirror to change what you're seeing instead of changing the individual that is staying in the mirror. Because the truth of the matter is, the more that you focus on you, the more the universe is going to focus on you. And I don't say that to encourage a particular degree of selfishness. I'm saying that in terms of what's going on within. We need to understand what reality actually is and how reality actually works in correspondence to manifestation in order for us to actually manifest. Because all good and well, people just saying, yeah, just persist. Yeah, just visualize. But the truth of the matter is, I need you to understand what this physical plane actually is, so you actually have the capability in doing one thing in particular. See, I was talking to a client of mine, and he was saying he realized that he was struggling to really change his reality because reality held too much authority in his head. And I think that's the case for most of us, because 9 times out of 10, you weren't born into this information. Neither was I. We stumble into this information and then we have to unlearn a whole bunch of things, such as the concept in a completely solid, fixated reality. We then shift to a metaphysical understanding that reality can be molded through consciousness and frequency, but we first need to have to break down what that is. But in order to break down what that is, let's break down what reality is. So what you call reality, like I said, is known as the physical plane. It's 3 planes of existence: mental, physical, spiritual. It's also known as, the world around you. Now, this world is made up of matter. That's evident. Now, the ancient spiritualists, the ancient metaphysicians, had this idea that matter was a precipitate of consciousness. Now, for those of you that's like, what the fuck is a precipitate? It's a droplet. Matter is a droplet of consciousness. Now, the easiest way to conceptualize this is to think about matter like ice and consciousness like steam. Ice and steam are both the same energy. They're both H2O. The only difference between them is the rate of vibration at which these particles are vibrating at. And that's the thing that changes them from being in a gaseous state to a solid state. Now, you can't really grab steam, but you can touch ice. Now, would you say that steam isn't real because you can't grab it? No, of course it's real. It's just real in a different state of existence. This is real in a completely different vibratory rate. And that's the same thing with consciousness and reality. You see, matter, what we consider matter, can be equated to ice in a sense that it's tangible. The particles are more dense. Hence why they call it, when spiritual niggas talk about lower vibration, if you actually go to texts such as the Kabbalion and it talks about lower vibration, it's not pertaining to any particular degree of morality or some spiritual code that niggas can eat meat and not do this, and niggas can't eat meat and niggas can't drink. It's specifically referring to density. The higher planes of existence are, of course, less dense in the same way that steam is, hence why you can grab it. Now, reality in of itself is consciousness fundamentally. Hence why people like Neville Goddard would often say that consciousness is the substance of reality, right? I like to think about the world that you live in as frozen imagination. Because there's nothing that exists on this physical plane that was created by humanity that was not first within one's imagination. From this pen to this pen lid to this board wiper, to this microphone, to the back of the microphone, the magnet, to this necklace, to this vest, right? To this, what's this called? Bracelet, to this bracelet. Now, people often go to, explain reality like a mirror. Reality is like a mirror, but I don't like that for a multitude of reasons. I prefer to explain it this way. Think about life, reality, manifestation, or the materialization of reality. Think about it like a radio tower. See, everything in this universe vibrates. That's not even some spiritual shit. That's just is what it is. Everything emits a frequency. Now think about it when you're tuning into a radio. When you want to tune into a particular radio station, you need those exact digits. It might be 99.582, right? To tune into whatever it is that you want to tune into. It's the same thing with reality. See, reality in combination with manifestation is like a radio tower and frequencies. If you want to experience a new radio station, which we can equate to be a new reality, then the first thing you must do is not attempt to go to the fucking station. It's simple. This thing you just do is just tune the frequency that you're already operating at to become in resonance with what it is that you want. And the frequency that you're tuning to, or the frequency that you wish to tune into, has a very specific number, to which once you tune into it, it's like when you're approaching the station, if you ever tweak the radio, you're approaching the station, it's like, yo, what's those, you ever hear those Jamaican mixes where they're like on the radio and they're playing like, it'll be like, it'll be like, why not from a party girl? Shout out, shout out Marlon, Leroy. It will be like that, right? You're starting to tune into the radio station and you can't hear it. You hear it kind of scrambling. And then the more you get closer to tuning into that frequency, it becomes crystal clear. And that same concept can be extrapolated over here. I need you to understand it's the same. What you desire to materialize into existence, what it is, what we call your desired reality, has a specific frequency. Another way for you to think about it is like this. The universe in of itself is like a warehouse. Depending upon what text you read, some authors refer to the universe as an infinite storehouse, right? Of a multitude of realities. You go down the scientific side, they'll talk to you about the fourth dimension, this realm where all things exist and we are transcendent of time and space, which means anything that's to ever exist exists in this particular realm, right? Think about it like this. That particular realm, the fourth dimension, or the infinite or the storehouse, is like a warehouse. Think about it like an Amazon warehouse. When you order something from an Amazon warehouse, each product has a unique product code. Unique product code. Unique product code. Unique code. That unique code is correspondent with a product, a specific product. See, your unique product code is your frequency. And if you want a specific thing, think about it like this. If you used to go onto Amazon and you used to search, I want a t-shirt. You go into the search, type in t-shirt. You're gonna see a whole bunch of what? Specific t-shirts. Imagine you just say, I want a t-shirt, I want a t-shirt, I want a t-shirt, I want a t-shirt. Okay, at some point you still need to specify which t-shirt you want in particular. And if you're not specifying which one you want in particular, aligning with a unique product code to get the warehouse to know what to send you, then you're not going to be delivered that thing. And see, this is a problem that people come into when it comes to manifestation. See, oftentimes people say, I just want more money. I just want a person. I just want, I want more money in my business. I want this, I want this. And the issue is that oftentimes there's no specificity behind what it is that you want. Your code isn't unique enough. And because it's not unique enough, you're no different from the person that keeps refreshing t-shirt on Amazon. You just keep getting shown different t-shirts. But at some point you need to select which one it is that you want. So between the unique product code and the radio tower frequency, you have to understand that specificity is everything. Most of you lot just aren't getting what it is that you want because you're actually not being specific enough. As crazy as that sounds, you're not being specific enough. You're not being specific enough because it's through the acquisition of specificity and frequency that you then become in resonance. And I love this word. You become in resonance with what it is that you want. And this is all that it comes down to. See, the first thing that you have to come to a realization of is, like I said, there's 3 planes of existence: physical, mental plane, and spiritual plane. And the thing about the mental and spiritual plane is that these are causal, meaning that they affect reality. They affect reality, which means if you're not doing what you need to do on the mental and the spiritual plane, and bear in mind, when I say the spiritual plane, I don't mean you need to go and get heaven points or spiritual brownie points by being a good human being. That's not what I'm referring to. I will elaborate on that much further. But see, I have to also demystify you from this idea that spirituality is intertwined with morality, because that causes a bigger cognitive dissonance. You're like, yo, I'm a fucking nice person and I'm spiritual. I should really get whatever I want. So that's the mentality. But I need to detach you from that particular degree of cognitive dissonance. But the thing that you have to understand is that what you desire already exists. What you desire already exists. Because the thing is, as you transcend this third dimensional realm, we transcend space and time. And when we transcend space and time, that means everything that is to ever exist already exists, because we're void of space and time. And across many different cultures, this notion of an infinite realm of all possibilities exists. What you desire already exists in the same way that the radio station that you want to tune into already exists. The thing is, you don't really want to make a new radio station. See, this is another thing I have to tell you about manifestation. Most people think manifestation is about creating reality. There's nothing for you to create. Everything's already to ever be created. The infinite has already created everything. Because see, when we get into semantics such as create reality, most of you niggas actually don't believe in yourself enough to believe that you can create anything. So then when you come and say, let me create my reality, you're thinking, well, I couldn't even create a decent meal. I couldn't create anything. And see, I have to point these things out to you because it matters more than you think. You're not creating reality so much as selecting a reality that already exists. You're essentially walking into a shop or a store. You're walking into a shop and you're saying, what jacket do I want? And you're taking the jacket. There's nothing more to it than that. You're taking the jacket, you're putting it on. There's nothing more to it than that. You're not so much as creating something that doesn't exist, but you're bringing something that is invisible into visibility. That's all manifestation is. That's at its core, that's all it is. You're bringing it into visibility by becoming in resonance, by tuning into the specific frequency of that thing, which can be equated to the unique product code of that thing, which is your ability to embody that thing. Now, like I said, it's more important for you to understand what frequency is, what consciousness is, what self-concept is, because people just throw these words as buzzwords. Like I said, if you used to ask most niggas, okay, what actually is this comprised out of? And maybe it's my mind liking to be meticulous and systematic, but I like to break things down to a nice, clear detail. So let me break down what frequency is first. Let's break down what frequency self-concept is, because then the moment we do that, then that's half the job done. That's half the job done. This stuff is easy. This is something else that I'm going to be talking about. Oh, no, you know what I'm saying? Now, you have to understand one thing. Consciousness, self-concept, frequency is made up of these components. Now, the easiest way to look at these things is understanding it is the way that you look at yourself, quite simply. That's a surface level, but like I said, we're going down to the PhD level, because the issue is, one thing that I found myself to be, and I'm not sure if anybody else can relate, is that, you know, some of the information for me as I used to study, it used to feel way too surface level, and it didn't feel explained enough. And especially the time period through which most of these authors were writing from, it was quite in like mid 60s to like 70s, 80s. And the terminology that they used in the vernacular that they used at that moment in time wasn't something that I could really understand. So I really had to kind of dig deep. But the easiest way to think about all of these things is made up through these characteristics. Now, these are what I call the 7 keys of frequency. I speak about them in Outsmarting Reality, Amazon bestseller for 6 months straight in all 3 categories, 4.9 over 1,000 positive reviews on Amazon, link in the description. But I break that down in a whole chapter, but it's okay because I fuck with you niggas. I'm gonna break it down here to the same degree, maybe even a bit better.
It should be his own video.
Because you think so?
Yeah. 7 keys of frequency, I like that.
Yeah, thank you. We're gonna see what one nigga made this video.
Yeah, we're
that exact title. Probably like 3 keys, something. Or the key to frequency.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's made up of these characteristics. Now let's start at the bottom, like Drake. Now, allegedly. Now, you have to understand that frequency, self-concept, consciousness is made up of these characteristics. The first thing is your perception. Your perception is the way that you look at, not only, it's the way you look at a multitude of things. Your perception is the way that you look at yourself, the way you look at the world, and the way that you look at what it is that you want. Because your perception equates to your projection, meaning the way that you look at life is the way life looks at you. And oftentimes your frequency speaks before you've even spoken. That's a bar, write that down. And because your frequency speaks before you've even spoken, the way that you look at yourself is spoken to others without you having to say anything. The way that you speak to the world, about the world, is the way that the world begins to react to you. The way that you speak and perceive your desire is also something that's intertwined in your ability to materialize what it is that you want. So the first thing that you have to ask yourself is, how do I look at myself? It's a tough question. The second thing you have to ask is, how do I look at my desire? Do you look at it as this big giant thing? Do you look at it as difficult? Do you look at it as easy? Do you look at it as it's going to take a while? Do you look at it as difficult? Do you look at it as however you look at it? Then the other thing is, how do I look at the world? Because your confession of the world is a silent, subconscious, unconscious perception towards yourself. And that's a bar, write that down. Because supposedly, if the concept in the realm of metaphysics is that the world that you walk in is nothing more than a reflection of you, then the way that you perceive the world will give you an insight into an unconscious way that you perceive yourself. See, sometimes I get niggas just to describe the way that they look at the world, just so I can gain an understanding of what's going on in here. Because you can do that. There's an invisible string that connects your mind to reality. Now, your perception. So your perception has to be aligned with whatever it is that you want. Let's say you want to make a certain amount of money. Okay, the way that you look at yourself, do you think that type of person deserves, air quotes, which we're gonna get into self-worth as well, because that's another thing that fucks people up. Do you think the way that you look at yourself is do you think the way that you look at yourself or the person that you perceive yourself to be is in accordance with the type of person that deserves this thing? The way that you look at your desire, do you magnify it? Do you pedestalize it? Do you minimize it? Is it easy? Is it difficult? It all plays into it. Your reactions. Your reaction is a confession of your state of consciousness. How would the version, in fact, the question that you need to ask yourself consistently, take this question, write it down, and extrapolate it to all of these things. How would the version of me perceive what it is that I want? How would the version of me that has what I want perceive myself? How would the version of me that has what I want perceive the world? How would the version of me that has what I want react to things going right and things going wrong? And if you're not in accordance with those reactions, then unfortunately, you're not in the correct state of consciousness, the expectations. So your expectations, if you say to people, do you expect things to go wrong? They'll say no. Okay. Do you find it normal when things go wrong? Yes. Your normality is your expectation. The things that you find normal will find you. That's a bar, write that down. And your expectation is a form of creation. Your expectation is a form of creation solidified with conviction behind it. And that conviction, up here, let's jump up here, is what's considered faith. Now, faith comes from the Latin word fides. Fides meant confidence. But at its core solidified form, there's nothing more powerful in this universe than conviction. Also going to be talking about techniques and stuff like that. There's nothing more powerful than conviction. Conviction does nothing more than strengthen the frequency that you're outputting. See, oftentimes we just have conviction and things going against us as opposed to for us. So even when life is beating you in, it's really just you beating you in. Pause. Your beliefs. Your belief is nothing more than a thought held by emotion. How do you know? Because when you attack someone's belief, emotions come out. Beliefs have this tendency to merge with the areas of the brain associated with identity. So which when you attack someone's belief, it lights up the same areas in their brain as attacking their identity. If I was to say to AJ that I think, Manchester United is a shit team, all right? I don't watch football. It's merged into his identity. Now, this can be said about many other different things, but your beliefs have to be in alignment with the version of you. So the version of you that has what it is that you want, what do they believe about what it is that you want? What do they believe about themselves? What do they believe about the world? Your emotionally charged thoughts are just thoughts with emotion behind them. That's very self-explanatory, because typically, oftentimes we like to drench thoughts laced in fear, anxiety, worry, and anger. You're focusing your attention. If energy goes where attention flows, then is your consciousness, your focus is the centralization of energy. Is the centralization of your energy skewed towards what it is that you want? Because oftentimes we focus on the things we don't want as opposed to the things we do want. In the work that I do with clients, majority of the time it's actually just shifting their focus back from what they don't want straight to what they do want. Because if your focus is like a ray of sunlight, if you take a magnifying glass, put sunlight through it, it's powerful enough to start a fire. That's the power of concentration. But oftentimes we concentrate on how things aren't working. We concentrate on how business has been slow. We concentrate on the amount of shit people that we've gone on dates with. We concentrate on the fact of how our boss has ignored us for all this time. We concentrate on how there's no jobs out here. We concentrate on the fact that we keep getting rejected for jobs. We concentrate on how we keep failing these interviews. See, when your concentration is skewed towards what it is that you don't want, the unfortunate realization that you're going to come to is that your attention is more powerful than your intention. And that's a real bar, write that down. We're going to be getting into that as well. See, there's actually going to be a lot that we're covering here, because I meant it when I said that this is a step-by-step manifestation 101, start to finish. You should be done after this. Now, yeah, that's it. That's it. I didn't even realize. Now, let's get into manifestation techniques, because the amount of videos that I see on techniques it's beyond me, honestly. It's beyond me. Manifestation is easy. Now, I like to tell you a story. I remember I was doing a client call once, and a client of mine was complaining to me. They were like, yo, when I first got into this manifestation stuff, studying this type of information, I read one book and I was manifesting like crazy. Everything was so easy at that point. I said, what happened? He said, like, I don't know what happened. I just kept studying, but it seemed to get progressively harder. A concept that I have to familiarize you with is the notion of beginner's luck. Beginner's luck is that when you first enter a realm, things seem to be easy, things seem to flow. But when you really look at it from point of frequency and you dissect the consciousness of beginner's luck is just a mind with no limits. A mind with no what works, what doesn't work. There's no idea of what works, what doesn't work. There's no possibility. There's no impossibilities. It's just an open mind. Now, the reason that I say this is for you to understand one thing. Manifestation in of itself is easy. That's a belief that you need to have, because another thing that you lot don't really realize, you focus on your money beliefs, you focus on your career beliefs, you focus on your relationship beliefs, but how many of you focus on the very fucking beliefs that unlock what it is that you want, which is your manifestation beliefs? What are your beliefs on manifestation? And see, the issue is that we spend so much time studying this information that we begin to unconsciously take on a whole bunch of beliefs that we didn't even realize that we had in association with manifestation. I'll give you an example. When I say a manifestation is easy, you're like, yeah, it should be easy, but it's not. And why is it not? Well, it's because you've done one thing in particular. Overconsume. See, you've studied manifestation so much that unfortunately you've overconsumed so much information. And naturally, I'm sure as you've realized at this point, it's conflicting. What people say is conflicting. Some people say affirmations work, some people say they don't work. Some people say visualization, some people say scripting, some people say you don't even need to do that. Some people say you just need to decide. Some people say you need to do this, some people say you need to do this. Some people say you need to be on an alkaline diet. Some people say you need to fast. Some people say you need to do this. And the issue is an overconsumption of information does one thing. It puts your mind in a state of analysis paralysis. And analysis paralysis will either lead to two things, and it's important you note these down. Analysis paralysis will lead to you doing nothing or doing something with no conviction. Which either one is a pathway to failure, because then here's what happens. You'll be like, cool. You'll lay down to do your visualization. Okay, am I relaxed yet? Okay. I need to be in a state akin to sleep. Okay, am I relaxed now? Okay, am I visualizing correctly? Am I doing this properly? Is this working? I'm still kind of awake. I thought it just came into my mind. Does that mess up the visualization? Okay, let me read these affirmations in the mirror like a psychopath. Okay, I love myself. Okay, but did I really mean that? Did I really mean that? I don't know. My heart wasn't really in it. Did I say it properly? Did I pronounce the words properly? Did my mind actually hear me? Okay, let me script. Okay, doesn't matter if my handwriting's a bit off because I'm tired today. My hands kind of hurt. Okay, do I need to use blue ink? Do I need to use black ink? Is this really working? You've consumed so much information that your mind is in a state of analysis paralysis. And like I said, when your mind's in a state of analysis paralysis, you either do one thing, you double guess everything, you do nothing, or you do it with no conviction. Now, the important one is double guessing, because the truth of the matter is, what is the information worth if you have no conviction behind it? And the irony is, conviction is actually the thing that only matters. Conviction is the only thing that actually matters. That's the only thing that actually matters. Nothing more, nothing less, just your conviction. Just your conviction. Nothing more, nothing less. Because see, here's the issue. We study so much that we begin to become frustrated when things don't work. And naturally, when things don't work, manifestation gets replaced. Instead of being easy, manifestation is frustrating. And you don't realize that the beliefs about what it is that you're trying to bring into existence is so important, more important than you'd ever realize. Manifestation is easy. It should be simple, but the over-analysis, the over-consumption, and the over-complication of it all, it just makes things unnecessarily difficult. The way that you actually go about manifesting is simple. Maybe you could say the information is complicated, but the things get conflated. The process becomes complicated and the information becomes complicated. And then unfortunately, our minds tend to like simplicity. So then you have a hard time digesting it. So you have to understand one thing in particular. You need to reduce the amount that you watch manifestation videos. And AJ hates every time I say this. I've been saying this for the past 2 years straight. And I say this because he's sharking me right now. He's sharking me right now. I actually care about the results that you get, right? I don't want you to be watching these videos forever. And the truth of the matter is, at a certain point, you need to come to a realization of one thing in particular. I know more than enough. Because see, the issue is your overstudy, your overconsumption of information is actually a subtle indication that you don't know enough. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't a call for you to be egotistical and to think that you know it all, but you should just have conviction in what you know. Having conviction in what you know is of the highest level of importance. You need to get to such a point of study where there's a point in your mind where you're like, you know what? I've heard everything that there. If you're at the point where you've heard everything that there is to hear and things are not changing, nigga, you need to start watching videos. That's what you need to stop doing. You have to start watching videos. And I say this because I actually care about the results that you get, because I'll show you what other people do in the manifestation side of things, because what they do will keep you on a treadmill. Let me show you what they do. Let me show you. Now, people often say, what is the best technique when it comes to manifestation? What's the best technique? Should I do affirmations? Should I do visualization? Cool. The best technique is actually very simple. One word, you. You are the best technique. Now you're probably thinking, what do you mean? Well, the truth of the matter is, when I was referring to something that I feel is a bit, I'm trying to use, obviously AJ is PR training me, so I'm trying to use, appropriate terminology. The bullshit that the niggas do in the spiritual space, in my opinion, is that so much for PR is typically getting people to focus on different shiny objects. People focus on different shiny objects. People will say, oh, it's this ancient information. Oh, it's this type of information. Oh, no, this is the quantum technique. No, this is the real technique to do this. Oh, no, that technique doesn't work anymore. As if the internet as if the universe is patched like software, and the universe has software updates. No, the visualization like that doesn't work anymore. Affirmations like that doesn't work. If you're not writing with blue ink, then it doesn't work anymore. See, the issue is that people get hyperfixated on shiny objects. And when you're hyperfixated on shiny objects, remember the first point that I made. If your consciousness or your focus is pointing away from you, then you begin to negate what is actually creating the very thing that you're looking at. And that's a bar that down. If you don't come to the realization of the fact that people will try to sell you shiny objects to them, do one thing, keep you on a perpetual hamster cycle. Because you have to come to the realization that you are the best technique. It's not affirmations, it's not scripting, it's not visualization. When I say you, I'm simply referring to whatever it is that you have conviction in. Whatever you have conviction in is the only technique. How do we know? Look at humanity. The placebo effect is a real life example of this. Give you a sugar pill, tell you it's a painkiller. Your body begins to react as if it's a painkiller. Why? Because belief is the simplest form of magic. Now, conviction is belief in maturation. Conviction is mature belief, very much mature. And the conviction in of itself does something powerful because like I said, conviction strengthens the frequency that you're emitting to the universe. Now, if the placebo effects on a physical level, one of the laws of the Hermetica is as above, so below, which means if we have a biological placebo effect, then the universe has a placebo effect. Hence why I say belief is the simplest form of magic. Niggas are talking about witchcraft, yada, yada, yada. Belief, that makes magic happen every single day. Now, like I said, conviction is that matured. So whatever technique you have conviction in is the one that works. That's it. Even when I work with clients, even when a client hires me, they pay 50K, we work together, they get results. Do you know why it's easy for them to get results? Because they have conviction in what I'm telling them. I could tell them niggas to drink lemonade. Mix some lemonade with some, what could we put in there? What could we put in this lemonade, AJ? What could we put in this lemonade? What could we put in this lemonade?
How wild do you want to go?
Let's go wild.
Let's put some mustard in the lemonade.
Okay, put some mustard in some lemonade. Drink it in front of the mirror while you're telling yourself that you love yourself. Now, of course, I'm being facetious. It's a partial truth. But what I'm trying to get you to come to a realization of is that even if you look at behavioral science, there's an amazing book on behavioral science called Influence. Influence is behavioral science on how to influence a person or how humanity is influenced. And one of the core principles is authority. Authority is so powerful that they conducted an experiment where nurses were told to give patients overdoses that would literally kill them because it was signed off by a doctor. And this was an experiment. And I believe 8 out of 10 nurses were on the way to inject the patient with a dose that they knew would kill them. Why? Because the authority of the doctor was so powerful in their heads. Now let's extrapolate that and make you the authority of your own reality. So you can transcend the logical part of your brain in order for you to do that. Because like I said, conviction is that. So when you're asking me what the best technique is, I need to ask you, what's your favorite technique? What technique do you believe works? Because that's the one that you need to do. Because conviction is a form of activation. See, techniques don't work without you. You activate techniques with your conviction in the techniques in the first place. Now, of course, I'm going to give you the techniques that I give to my clients because I like you. Like I said, this is a PhD in manifestation. So I'm going to give you the exact technique that I give to clients. But what I also need you to come to an understanding of is that it's not going to be the technique so much as the conviction you have in what I'm saying. But I'm saying you need to take the conviction away from me and give it to yourself. Because if you can give the conviction to yourself, then you'll no longer look for permission. Do you know what the number one thing that people ask me is? Questions they already know the answers to. Why? Because they're looking for my permission. They're looking for my validation. And I keep telling you, this is not a cult. Stop asking me questions you know the answers to. The reason why you need to stop asking me questions you know the answer to is because you're diminishing your conviction. What you want is for me to come and say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. The sky is blue. And you're like, oh, you know what? Thank you for that answer, Nero, because that really changed things. No, your conviction has to go to yourself. Your conviction, your permission has to go to yourself. Now, like I said, techniques are activated by conviction. Techniques are useless. Think about techniques like a car. It doesn't matter what car you use to go on a journey. All that matters is that there's fuel in the tank in order for it to move. Now, of course, I know there's gonna be someone in the car, oh, my car's electric. Whatever. You get the point that I'm trying to convey here. The point that I'm trying to convey here is very simple. It's nothing more than understanding that conviction is the fuel that is in the car that allows for you to go to wherever it is that you want. Without conviction, it is useless. Now you're probably thinking, okay, how do I get conviction? Hey, relax, wipe your mouth. You're gonna get some. I promise you. Like I said, we're covering everything. If you got your list and you're listening, we're ticking everything off. But the first thing that you have to realize is that when it comes to techniques, they are activated by you. Specifically, conviction. Specifically, conviction plus emotional intensity. Have you ever realized that there's some people that will never ever in their lives read the single manifestation book, and here you are believing that you know the keys to the universe and the secrets of the dark arts, and you could just be a wizard and boop, whatever it is that you want, but you're struggling to materialize what it is that you want? Does that make sense to you? It's because these principles work regardless and irreflective of whatever it is that you know. They simply operate by the individuals that are using them. And individuals that are able to manifest whatever it is that they want without a technique have these two things: conviction and emotional intensity. Conviction and emotional intensity. Conviction and emotional intensity. This is the basis of creation. Now, oftentimes we have conviction and things going wrong, combine that with negative emotional intensity, and we end up creating wrong. But if you can have conviction in what it is that you want already existing, if you can have conviction combined with positive emotional intensity, oh, then you're gonna have an amazing time. You're gonna have an absolutely amazing time. Now, like I said, I'm going to give you the exact technique I give to clients. So let's go through that. Your business.
For real.
So the technique that I give to clients is simple. But the technique won't really work for you without understanding conviction levels and manifestation muscle. Hence, I've got them written underneath, because once again, like I said, it's the school level all the way up to PhD. Congratulations, you're at your graduation, mate. Imagine I'm your lecturer. Your life is finished. But anyways, so first things first. The first thing that you want to do, so this technique is a visualization technique. And the reason why I use visualization, because in my opinion, I feel typically for myself, and it depends upon the client that I have. I might tell some clients to do a different technique if that's what they're accustomed to. But this is the technique that I give to my clients generally. And hey, it typically works for them. So the first thing that you want to do is relax. You either want to lay down or sit down, however long it takes you to feel relaxed. The reason why I say feel relaxed is that typically when you're in a state of relaxation, your brain switches to reducing theta waves. Theta waves are associated brain waves that produce the subconscious opening. Your subconscious mind is the mind that we're going to be targeting here in order for us to actually be able to create things. It's very important that it's your subconscious that we're working with here. Now, after you relax, however long it takes you, the second thing that you want to do is to bring a scene to mind. Bring a scene where someone you love, somebody that would genuinely be happy for the materialization of what it is that you want, is acknowledging your desire having manifested. You want to keep it short. So for example, just to spitball some, let's say you're in a relationship, they can be like, oh, I've never seen you looking happier. That's probably something that they would say. If it was a certain amount of money, it's, I knew you was gonna make X amount of money. If it was the job, I knew you was gonna get the job. If it's a promotion, I knew you was gonna get the promotion. Somebody that would genuinely be happy for you. In this visualization, you want to keep it short. Hopefully it's less than 5 seconds, because it should just be a dialogue of them saying something that acknowledges a particular degree of happiness and expression towards whatever it is that you want. You then want to incorporate some physical touch into it, because that makes it more real to your mind. And then you just want to loop this again and again, like an Instagram boomerang, until you get tired. Once you begin to feel as if you're straining, you know when you're visualizing, you're like, and you're really struggling to see whatever it is that you want to materialize, or it's requiring a lot of effort, stop the visualization, get up. Now, this might take you 5 minutes, it might take you 10, it might take you an hour, however long it takes you. The moment that it becomes straining, you get up. You get up and go about your life. You then pick a simple, single sentence that you would think upon materializing whatever it is that you want. So, for example, if it's a certain amount of money, I knew I hit X amount of money. If it's, I'm so in love with this person, I'm so in love. A simple sentence that you'd think upon being in that desired reality. So think about the version of you that has whatever it is that you want. What would be a sentence that they would think that would indicate to you that you already have what it is that you want? So for money, for example, it could be, I know I was going to hit X amount of money this month. I know I was going to make X amount this year. I knew that deal was going to close. And this is something that you go throughout your day. When you're brushing your teeth, you're going on a walk, you're eating lunch, you're chilling with your people, you're chilling, you're laughing. You take one thought and you just drum it into your head again and again and again and again and again and again and again throughout the whole day, as much as you can. If you forget, cool, just get back to it. Do that for the whole day. Now, that's the technique that I give to clients. Now, one thing that I have to mention is manifestation muscle and conviction levels. See, here's the thing. If you don't have the conviction in your ability to materialize what it is that you want, then you have two options. Either increase conviction, or, and this isn't a bad thing, you decrease your goal. Now, that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying if your goal is to be in a happy, healthy relationship, go and date, the worst of the worst. I'm not saying anything along those lines. But what I'm trying to get you to realize is, here's a question I always ask the clients. When clients come to me and they say, I'll give you an example. One of my clients, Matt Ulrich, he owns a skincare company called Cure Skincare. They're about to touch 100 mil. We started working together about 5-6 months ago. The company was at 40 mil. So in this amount of time, he's reached 100 mil. You can go check him up on Instagram. And the question that I ask all of my clients is, depending upon what their goal is, if they want to make a certain amount in a year, if they want to make a certain amount in a month, I always say to them, and you can extrapolate this to whatever your desire is. On a scale of 1 to 10, and ask yourself this question. When you hear me ask this question, connect it to your desired reality and get a number in your head. Whatever your goal is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the likelihood of you getting it next month? Now, let me be real. If your thing's anything below 8, wrap it up. If it's anything below 8, then what that indicates is that you don't have the conviction that it takes to materialize what it is that you want. See, conviction is 10 out of 10. Conviction is, I know there's no room about it. And this is where you want to be when it comes to materializing whatever it is that you want. You want to have the conviction. Why? Because the things that you're able to manifest easily, maybe small amounts of money, people you don't want, not being employed. All of these things, you have conviction levels that you have 10 out of 10 in. So for you either want to increase the conviction or decrease your goal. I always say decrease your goal first because it's the path of least resistance. So let's say you want to make a certain amount of money. Okay, choose a number that your mind knows it can absolutely make. If it's to, maybe it's not to be happily married, maybe it's to go on dates with somebody that is a calm person, that could be that. So take whatever your goal is and look for the steps prior to that, because your mind will have a much easier time conceiving that. Because like I said, most of you don't have the conviction to do what it is that you want. Conviction is the only technique. Remember, you're thinking, oh, it's the technique that creates reality. No, the technique has one purpose. The purpose of any technique is to shift you internally, to which you become in resonance with what it is that you want. So what you want comes to you. That's what the purpose of the technique is, because the technique puts you in a state of conviction. Conviction then intertwines with the frequencies that you're operating at, and then that creates a particular degree of resonance with what it is that you want. So when you decrease your goal, it enables for you to do one thing: build manifestation muscle. I always say to people, okay, if you've never manifested anything of substance, then the first thing that you need to actually do is to prove to yourself that you can do this. So pick a color car and say that you're going to see this specific car in this specific color. Do that. I've had people send me lime green Rolls Royces because that's what they chose. And it's so strange when you think about it like that. But pick something. It could be something specific that you know, if I saw that, that's because I brought that into my existence. If you do that for about a week straight, you would have proved to your mind again and again that, you know what? I really do this shit. I really create this. And then your conviction and your ability to materialize your goals will be much bigger. Because if you don't even think you can manifest a parking space, then how do you think you could ever materialize whatever it is that you want? If you don't even think you can meet a decent man, how the hell can you ever convince your mind that you're somehow going to marry one? See, building manifestation muscles of the highest importance. You wouldn't walk into a gym and expect to bench a huge weight that you've just never done before. You wouldn't expect that. The typical is progressive overload. And that's what we do when it comes to manifestation. You want to build up your conviction by manifesting things that don't matter, or things that do matter, but just in smaller increments. And that's not to say that you have to go in increments forever. It's you need to go in a couple increments and then you can be like, I can do that easy. That's where you want to be in your head. That's where you want to be in your head. And most of you, let's be real, don't lie to me, you're not at that point. Which means there's more manifestation muscle to build, which is fun. You have to have fun with this. It's fun. If you can't have fun with this, you're not going to do it. That's why it says in the Bible, if you want to enter heaven, you must be like little children. That state of consciousness of pure abundance, pure infinite potential, and fun. That's what you need to be at. It's going crazy. But next thing, you can only have what you already have. You can only have what you already have. You can only have what you already have. Now, this makes no initial sense, but you can only have externally what you already have internally. So once again, this is the process of reverse engineering. Instead of looking outside of what you want, see, most people just think, I want more money, and they stop there. Most people think, I want a partner, and they stop there. Most people think, I want a promotion, then they stop there. But the issue with that is that you're still focused on the effect. And because you're so hyperfixated on the effect, you actually never put yourself in a position for you to set in motion the cause to the effect. And this is what you have to begin to understand. You can only have externally what you already have internally. You can only have physically what you possess vibrationally. And vibrationally is nothing more than a combination of mentally and emotionally, or the 7 keys. However, it makes sense to you. I'm just covering all bases because for some people it will hit differently, for others it will hit differently. So you can only have what you already have. This comes into play with the understanding that it's not about reality. It's about your ability to attain what it is that you want. So what is it that you want? If it's a relationship that you want and you think you just want a relationship, then you're fucking wrong. There's only one thing that you ever want in life. One thing. One thing. The one thing that you ever want in life. Only one. An emotion. The only thing you actually want is an emotion that you think is missing. Listen to what I said. The only thing you want is an emotion that you think is missing. Think is missing. And unfortunately, off the basis of just the fact that you think it's missing, there are few truths in reality other than what the subconscious mind accepts as true. And your subconscious mind accepts it, that it's true that you're missing something. You then actually separate yourself from the very emotion that would eventually become a vibration, that would become a frequency, that would become the very thing that it is that you want. So you think you want the relation. No, you want to be cherished. You want to be held. You want to be appreciated. You want to be loved. You want the emotions associated with that thing. If there was no emotions in that thing, you would not want it. I fucking promise you. There's nothing that you want in this life, even down to a toothpick, that doesn't provide a different type of feeling, whether subtle, whether intense. Think about everything you've ever wanted. A book. Why do you want a book? Because it's going to allow for you to know a certain information so you can feel something. Everything. Even a plastic water bottle. Now, don't let the microplastic spiritual people start cussing in the comments. But you get what I'm trying to say here, right? Everything in life that you want is nothing more than an emotion that you're missing. And this is the most liberating realization. Because guess what? Emotions are free. Emotions are free. The only thing that you need to buy your desired reality is the emotion that is associated with that reality that is missing. An emotion that you're depriving yourself from feeling, because in your mind, you're thinking to yourself, you know what? When I made that money, then I'll feel. When the truth is, it's the other way around. When you feel, then you will get the money. When you're thinking to yourself, you know what, when I'm finally in a relationship, then I'll feel appreciated, cherished. No, feeling cherished and appreciated is how you place yourself to be in resonance with the relationship in the first place. It's about understanding that you can only have what you already have. And if you don't have it, then you never will. If you don't have it internally, then you'll never have it externally. By the realization that fuck the external thing. It's not about the external thing. It's about the internal thing. Hence why I say, most people point you in the wrong direction when it comes to spirituality because they get you to focus on the realm of reality that doesn't even exist like that. It's not about that. It's not about that. Now, one thing that I do have to preface this with is that people don't seem to understand the concept that how do I say this? People don't seem to understand the concept that you already manifest. Now, people come to me because they think they have a manifestation problem. You don't have a manifestation problem until you actually declare that you have a manifestation problem, then you actually end up creating a manifestation problem. But I can assure you, you don't have a manifestation problem. Even if you're not materializing what it is that you want, you do not have a manifestation problem. That is not your problem. How do I know? Because you manifest on autopilot. You just manifest the shit you don't want, but then you think that's not you, so then you think you got a problem. Then you try to manifest what you do want, and then it doesn't work, so then you're like, oh, this manifestation stuff doesn't work. But no, it's not like that. See, one thing that I've never heard anybody talk about is this: the fact that you have two different things that you're not, I guess, aware of. Now, we've heard of the conscious and subconscious mind, but have you ever heard of your conscious definition of things? And have you ever realized that that may not be the same as your subconscious definition of things? I'll give you an example. Define love. What's your definition of love? You'd probably say, I don't know, love is appreciation, it's cherishing, it's honesty, it's all of this, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. That's how we consciously define love. How do we define money? We define money as a store of value. You know what I mean? Fairly neutral things. What if your subconscious mind has its own definition, which is dangerous because you manifest from your subconscious mind? Your subconscious mind is the womb of reality. Everything that you materialize into existence comes from the subconscious mind. Hence why, if you're not taking into consideration your subconscious mind's definition towards what it is that you want, then you could be actually not struggling to manifest anything at all. You could be manifesting exactly what it is that your subconscious wants. See, your conscious definition of love may be appreciation, but the subconscious mind forms its definition, remember, on conviction and emotional intensity. Now, emotional intensity is expressed in two ways. Observation and experience. 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 But the core basis is emotional intensity. Now, what is the most intense things that you have experienced surrounding love or observed surrounding love? See, now the answer is a bit different. If you're like you've observed toxicity and chaos when it comes to love, predicated upon the emotional intensity of that observation, that is your subconscious definition, which means that love equates to chaos. So then when you say, I want to manifest love, and you get love, but it's chaotic love, why are you confused? You're getting exactly what your subconscious mind wants. What is your subconscious mind's definition of whatever it is that you want? The easiest way to ask yourself that is to come to realization on what have I observed or experienced with emotional intensity, negative emotional intensity, surrounding the thing that I want. So let's say you want a promotion, let's say you want a job, let's say you want a relationship, let's say you want more money in your business. What have I observed or experienced with emotional intensity on the negative side behind whatever it is that I want? In business, is it a continuous failure of deals to go through? In love, is it a string of bad dates, maybe a really bad breakup, maybe cheating? In career, could be continuous rejection in applications. You're making this final stage every time, then it falls through. If you've gone through that, then I can assure you your subconscious mind's definition of what you want is going to be skewed towards the negative side. So then when you go to manifest, you're like, why is it not working? But the truth is your mind's like, it is working. I'm literally manifesting exactly what we want, except you don't want that. Your subconscious mind does. And the easiest way to recreate that is to pick one core memory of observation or experience. And when the negative is about to happen, you recreate it to be positive. or getting into a relaxed meditative state, because then, like a Word document, you overwrite the file that has been saved into your subconscious mind. So instead of saying negative, you overwrite it with a positive memory. Now it says positive, you hit save, boom. Nice and simple. Nice and simple. Now, everybody has the intention on manifesting the things that it is that they want. But the issue is, intention is not enough. Intention is not enough. Your attention is more powerful than your intention. Once again, I like to repeat, if your attention is focused on something you don't want, if your attention is focused on something that you do want, but your intentions are focused on something you do want, guess what? Your intention is going to lose each and every single time. You need to make sure your attention is aligned with your intention. So for example, if you want more clients coming to your business, your attention shouldn't be on the fact that no businesses came in. You understand what I'm saying? If you want to be in a healthy, happy relationship, your attention shouldn't be focused on how, men aren't men anymore and they used to go to war and now they drink matches and, you know what I mean? They don't drink whiskey straight from the bottle, and it shouldn't be that women aren't women anymore and these young hoes and yada, 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 right? We have to make sure that your attention is in alignment with your intention surrounding whatever it is that you want. But in order to do that, like I said, at the start, I said you need crystal clear clarity on what it is that you do want. So if you want more clientele to come into your business, then the intention isn't enough if your attention isn't in alignment. If your mind is focused on how business has been slow and that's where your attention is going, as opposed to shifting your attention to the fact that business has came in, maybe not to the degree that you want, but even if you can focus on the fact that you've had clients, you place yourself in resonance to have more clients. It's the same concept that can be extrapolated to whatever it is that you want. Most people's intention is to have more money, but their attention is focused on how the world is taking money from them, how they never have money, how they never have enough, which means that unfortunately, remember, your attention is a centralization of energy like sunlight through a magnifying glass, and that lights things up. So the question that you need to ask yourself is my intention in alignment with my attention, and is my attention in alignment with my intention? Because 9 times out of 10, it's not. And like I said, the world has a way of throwing its whirlwind at us to pull us out. Because if you ever pay attention to what the world wants to do, the world wants to get your attention to shift on all the things that you don't want. Because when you focus on the things you don't want, then you create the source of all negative emotion. All negative emotion. I mean, listen to what I'm saying. The source of all negative emotion comes from an intention that's focused on what we don't want to happen. So the way that we override it, because think about it, your attention is focused on something you don't want. That creates an emotion that's negative. The combination of attention and emotion then leads to further immersion into your self-concept, into your frequency, into your identity. And then unfortunately, that puts you in a position where you're trapped in this cycle now of what it is that you don't want. What is it that you do want? Even if you have the smallest sign of evidence that it's working or it has worked, it's better to focus on it has worked. If let's say you're in a good relationship before, now you're just running into nothing but rubbish. Focus on the good relationships that you previously had and the good partners that you previously had. Shift your attention towards them, because then you place yourself in resonance with that particular reality. It's the same thing with business. If you're going through a slow period, focus on the fact of a high period and place your attention towards them while you're doing everything that you're doing, because then you're shifting your attention to be alignment with your intention. Everybody intends for better. I've never met somebody who intends for their life to get worse. How long does it take to manifest?
Are you gonna back your brethren?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking in my head.
UK knows.
UK knows. How long does it take to manifest? This is a question I get asked all the time. How long will it take for my desire to materialize, especially by clients when we start working together? They're like, okay, your other clients had results in like 10 weeks. Will it be the same for me? And I'm like, the truth of the matter is, how long does it take to manifest is largely determined by your perception towards your desire. typically, the bigger your manifestation is by your own definition, the longer it will take to materialize. And it actually has nothing to do with the size of the manifestation, because there is no big or small to the infinite that is within you. What is bigger than God? Precisely my point. It really comes down to the fact that you can think as God of your reality, as the God within has the capability of doing so. It can inflate a desire and make it bigger off the basis of your perception towards it. It's the same way in that scripture, and I believe it's Numbers 13:33, where it says something to the effect of, in the lands there were giants, and in our eyes we were grasshoppers, and so we were in their eyes. It's the understanding that your perception towards yourself and your perception towards your desire is more important. Now, that being said, all manifestation is instant. Because remember, manifestation isn't about the alteration of reality. Manifestation is about internal shift to a degree to which you're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. When you're good with it and you're good without it. How long does that take? That can take you an instant. And funnily enough, if you truly do the work and you truly shift and you truly you come to the realization that I'm talking about, you won't even need your desired reality to manifest into physical existence, because you would have shifted instantly internally to such a degree that you no longer are emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. And see, that's power. Now, the true answer to me asking how your desired reality would feel is this. Your desired reality would feel normal. Have you ever thought about that? We tend to overinflate and over-exaggerate how different our life would be upon the materialization of what it is that we want. And it's because you've attributed so much meaning towards your desired reality that you've made a deadly mistake. And that deadly mistake is that through attributing meaning towards your desired reality and getting what you want, you've attributed importance. And the thing about importance is that importance is interpreted as energetic space. It's distance. The bigger the importance that your desire has, the bigger the distance in between you and your desire. And that's a bar, write that down. And that's a realization that you need to come to. Because like I said, your desired reality would feel normal. Your desired reality would feel normal to you. Have you ever thought about that? In your mind, you're thinking, yo, when I get this money, life is gonna be this, life is gonna be this. When I get a person, our life's gonna be like this. When I get a job, our life's gonna be like this. But eventually, I've got some news for you. News flash for you, buddy. That was my accent. It would feel normal. It would feel very much normal. And it's actually this idealistic perception that you have towards your desired reality of it being this amazing, perfect dream life that is actually a trick from your old frequency that gets you to overinflate your desire for you to attribute so much meaning to it that you end up subconsciously attributing importance, which then you end up creating this distance, this space in between you and what it is that you want. Have you ever noticed that the things you don't care about seem to materialize easily? Uh-oh. So what if it's the amount of care that you have for your desire that is actually stopping you from being able to materialize it into existence? Because your desired reality would feel normal. Now you're probably thinking, how do I get my desired reality to feel normal, Nero? See, the reason it doesn't feel normal right now is because your mind knows you don't have it. Your mind knows you don't have it, which is one thing that you need to come to a realization of. You see, anything that your mind perceives as you already having feels normal. Think about those clothes that you saw once upon a time. They look so good. And you bought them and now you're just wearing them around the house on a lazy thing. And it's why it's because they become normal to you. So if you want something to become normal, the pathway to making something normal is to neutralize it. And you neutralize it through the visualization technique that I gave you earlier, because through that technique, you create emotion, you create conviction that enters the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind says, okay, this person already has what they want. What's the big deal? Things are only a big deal when you don't have them. Things are only a big deal when you don't have them. Say it with me. Things are only a big deal when you don't have them. But when you have them, it's not a big deal anymore. And see, through the process of visualization, due to the fact that the mind can't tell the difference between truth and imagination, especially when it's in a state of relaxation, because your brain is in theta, which means your subconscious mind is present and your conscious mind, the logical part, is shut out. Through that, you are saying to your mind, I have what I want, I have what I want, I have what I want. And through doing so, your mind's like, okay, the importance, it decreases. It goes down, it goes down, it goes down, it goes down, it goes down. Then the more you decrease that importance, through possessing it in your mind, the more you collapse the distance, and then there'll be no distance in between you and what it is that you want. If you can still feel yourself gassing over your desired reality, then that means your mind doesn't already perceive you having it. And if your mind doesn't already perceive you having it, that's an indication that you need to
Calm down now. Getting a bit aggressive.
I don't know why picking it up felt so like degrading. I felt like someone threw a pen on the floor and they said, pick it up. You know what I mean? But anyways, through a combination of emotion and conviction, you actually decrease the importance, because it's only important because your mind perceives you as separate from it. But when your subconscious mind perceives you already having it, there won't be a big deal anymore. And because it won't be a big deal anymore, then the importance will decrease. And when the importance decreases, the distance decreases. And when the distance decreases, you're no longer like this, but you're one with your desired reality. So importance is an indication to do. So that's how you get rid of importance. People often say, how do I make it not important? You make it not important by feeding it to such a degree through the combination of the visualization and then taking the singular thought and saturating your mind as much as you can throughout the day with a simple sentence that you would think upon the manifestation of whatever it is that you want. There's two selves that are very important to manifestation that people don't talk about. And I don't know why people don't talk about this. Actually, I know why people don't talk about this, especially self-discipline. It's because they like to propagate this idea that you can be a lazy fuck and still materialize what it is that you want. You don't have to do anything and things can just come to you and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is we exist on 3 planes of existence. So physical work is important. Now, that doesn't mean physical struggle. See, you have to understand that effort is natural. There's nothing wrong with effort, but struggle is effort laced with negativity. That's what you don't need. And that's how you begin to fall into the traps that most people make. Now, let's start with self-discipline. See, self-discipline is important because if you can't listen to yourself, then how the fuck could you ever expect the universe to listen to you? If you can't control yourself, how could you ever expect to control reality? If you don't even trust yourself to guide yourself, how could you possibly end up rearranging the reality that you want? It doesn't make sense. See, self-discipline is important. I'm not saying you gotta be David Goggins level, or I'm not saying you gotta be a monk, but I'm saying you need to do the things that you know you need to do and not do the things that you know you need to do. People always ask me, oh, Nero, can I smoke? Can I link this girl tonight? Can I link this guy tonight? Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do that? It actually doesn't matter. The thing you do is not important. What's important is your perception towards the thing that you're doing. So if you're gonna do something and then you're gonna be upset that you've done it because you want to stop doing it, then don't do that. Because let me explain why. Your self-discipline leads to self-trust. Self-trust eventually leads to self-confidence. Confidence matures into conviction. Conviction is the most important word when it comes to manifestation. So when you're able to discipline yourself, you gain your own trust. When you break your own trust, you break your confidence. When you break your confidence, you diminish the conviction that you have. Hence why it's important. Now, self-worth is the ceiling of anything that you'll ever be able to materialize. Most of you don't have a problem manifesting anything. Your problem is that what you want is just out of what your mind conceives your self-worth to be. You don't feel worthy to receive that relationship. You don't feel worthy to receive that promotion. You don't feel worthy to receive that amount of money. Why? Because here's the thing. People think self-worth is what they think they deserve. But your self-worth is not what you think you deserve. Your self-worth is what you know you deserve. And what you know is conviction. And if we reverse engineer conviction, what is it? Conviction is what you have already felt. So then your self-worth at its core isn't what you think. See, most people think that their self-worth is what they think they deserve. You think you deserve more, you think you deserve a good person, but nah, what do you know you deserve? What you know you deserve is dependent upon what you've already emotionally felt. And once you have if you already emotionally felt heartbreak, then unfortunately your subconscious mind has it registered that based upon what I've already felt, my conviction is skewed towards what I know, which is heartbreak. So that's when my self-worth is calibrated to. It's the same thing with money. If you felt yourself making a certain amount of money for a long period of time, you're gonna make more. More than likely, your self-worth isn't in resonance with the amount that you want. Not because you don't deserve it, but simply because what you felt is the current level that you've at to such a degree that your mind can't conceive of experiencing or feeling anything else. That is it. And see why that technique, you see that technique I gave you, it hits so many birds with one stone. Because through the cultivation of emotional intensity and conviction, you end up sorting out your self-worth. And once you end up sorting out your self-worth, self-disciplines must eat much easier. But you also have to be aware of your self-trust in your day-to-day to make sure that you're not doing the things you don't want to do and doing the things you know you need to do. One other thing I like to say is that my definition of manifestation being internally shifting to a degree to which you're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. One thing that I have to remind you is that there's nothing wrong with having fun in reality. So when your things manifest, like I was talking to a client and they were like, oh, my manifestation is coming through, but I don't want to be excited for it. And I'm like, no. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't allow reality to make you feel better than you make yourself feel. Because once you allow yourself to be sustained by reality, you place yourself in a position where you're a slave to reality because you receive your sustenance from reality. If you receive your security from reality, reality is a pendulum, so it swings like this. So in the moments, it will give you security, but like a loan shark, it will come to collect. So behind whatever it is that you want to materialize, let's say it's love, remember, break it down: appreciation, cherishment. If it's money, security, freedom, relief. If it's a promotion, it's status, recognition, respect. Break down what the core emotions of whatever it is that you want and sustain yourself with that more than reality can give you. Because when reality can see that it can do nothing for you, it will attempt to do everything for you. That's a bar, write that down.
Someone commented, not me thinking AJ had left the channel until 12:49.
Oh, because you're silent or
I
something.
must not have spoke.
Because you talk later in the videos now.
Yeah.
Now, I need you to understand and write this down. Relaxation is manifestation. 9 times out of 10 in your desired reality, you'd feel relaxed. And remember, manifestation is about you feeling it before the world proves it to you. It's about being it before the world proves it to you. And your ability to be in a state of relaxation would also be synonymous with you being in your desired reality. But more importantly, it does one thing. See, most of you are actually in a state of mind throughout the day that is non-conducive to manifestation. The more that you can keep yourself relaxed throughout the day, the more chance your brain will produce theta. The more chance that your brain produces theta, the more chance you will have to enter the subconscious mind. So you see all the thinking from the end, all the affirmations, all that stuff. Most people's brains are so focused on tasks and so busy that their brain is in beta. And because beta waves are so quick, you never actually access the subconscious mind, and all your work is ruined and goes straight to the subconscious mind. And because it all goes to the conscious mind, it never makes the subconscious. It's because it never makes the subconscious, it never makes your reality. So relaxation is of the highest importance. Now, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the final thing that I like to say is, do me one favor. Keep this in mind. Keep this one thing in mind. In the right frequency, nothing can go wrong. As you're on the journey to materializing your desired reality, stop having expectations of how things should unfold. Remain centered in the end and understand whether adversity strikes or a detour happens or something goes left or something goes right or something goes backwards, something setbacks or something delays. You have to understand that in the right frequency, nothing can go wrong. Everything that begins to unfold from that everything that unfolds after you've internally shifted is part of your manifestation. You're just unaware of how, but you have to remain centered in a state of appreciation from the start, the middle, and throughout the end. And once you come to that realization, there's nothing else for you to know. So with that being said, congratulate. Oh, fuck.
Well, let's restart the whole video.
Congratulations. Welcome to the class of 2026 manifestation PhD. Yeah, my brain is fried. My brain is fried, bro. My brain is